Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Think Before You Hate podcast, where we'll discuss the latest topics on civil rights that concern the people of Chicago. I'm Alex with the Chicago Commission on Human Relations, and we are the city's civil rights agency. What we do is we enforce the Chicago Human Rights Ordinance as well as the Fair Housing Ordinance, and we fight discrimination and prejudice here in the city of Chicago. And today we have another special guest. We have Nubia Willman, who is the Chief Programs Officer of Latinos Progresando. And Nubia, thank you very much for joining us today. And to kick us off, will you please tell us a little bit about yourself? Where did you grow up? How did you start your career? Who is Nubia Willman?
Yes, of course. Well, I have to start by saying that I did not go to high school here, but I hope Chicagoans don't hold that against me. I did get here as fast as I could.
That's fine. I'm not a native Chicagoan, but I love this city.
We can talk about that
yes.
separately. I moved here for law school in 2007, so I went to Loyola, and I kind of knew, I grew up in Indiana, and I knew eventually that I wanted to live here in the city, and so I've been here ever since and have made it my home. I have practiced once I graduated in sort of the legal aid space, so I was an attorney at Legal Aid Chicago for about 9 years, which it was tremendous work. I did immigration and employment law. I helped survivors of trafficking and farm workers. It was really an incredible experience, and I was really fortunate to start my career as a legal aid attorney. And then in 2019, I was appointed by former Mayor Lightfoot to run the Office of New Americans in the city, and I was with her administration for all 4 years. And now, most recently, I'm at Latinos Progresando, where I get to do really great impact work for community, both in Little Village and the city as a whole.
Perfect. Now, what inspired you to pursue a career in law in general and later in immigration advocacy?
So I've always wanted to be an attorney, even as a young child. One of those very unusual children that sort of was
never
called.
Stopped. You chased your dream, and you're living it right now.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
I was sort of called to the law. But I think a lot of that was due to some influences in my home life. There was a lot of turbulence. I grew up in poverty. There was domestic violence. And so I did see how systems were inflicted upon us, and that planted a seed about the sense of justice and fairness. And then once I went to college and learned more about racial justice, and I earned a degree in sociology, that really opened my mind to the fact that I could use a law degree to really help the communities I care about and the people I care about. And sort of that's been the path I took.
All right. Can you share a story with us that illustrates how Latinos Progresando has made a real difference in someone's life?
Yeah, so Latinos Progresando is an organization that has been around now for over 27 years. Our founder, Luis Gutierrez, started it when he was very young, seeing this need in the community to advocate and support. We provide legal immigration services. That's our flagship program, is our oldest program. We provide community investment to our nonprofit partners. And then we do a lot of community response work for both the residents in Marshall Square, Little Village, and the city as a whole. We do green. We create green spaces. We work with small businesses and do some coalition building as well. But I think one of the best examples I can give today is around our social emotional learning program. So this is a program we've had now for 10 years, and it's a train the trainer model. So we teach social emotional courses to parent leaders within our parents that are part of our 4 partner schools. And so they learn how to really sort of assess their emotions, how to react to certain situations. And then they go and they train other parents in those sort of modules. And that has really made such a difference in our community of how folks are able to react to stressful situations, how they can react to their children. And I know our principals have really enjoyed being part of this program, and it has really empowered our parent leaders. And so when I think about the difference it makes, we go in with a parent who maybe is not used to even expressing their emotions, to then creating these leaders who feel empowered, who are able to speak in public, who are able to share information and become trusted voices within their community. And so that's a really powerful program that we have.
Yeah, that does sound very powerful. Now, what are some common misconceptions about justice for immigrants in Chicago? What are, some obstacles that do not make news headlines?
Immigration is incredibly complex, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions about how you can go about getting status. Immigration law is probably as complex, if not more, than bankruptcy code, because your ability to change, to adjust your status can change on like the date you entered or the country you're from. It really is just a matter of luck sometimes. And it's also very expensive. And so people sometimes think, well, if you just file the papers the right way, or if you but it's not really that simple or that easy. Clearly, if it was, everyone would do it. It's not a matter of want. It's a matter of there not being necessarily a pathway for this person. And I think folks don't recognize that, and also don't recognize that the system is actually administrative. So when someone is placed in proceedings, unlike criminal law, where you have a right to an attorney that's appointed for you, in immigration law, because it's administrative, even if you are eventually deported, the court doesn't see that as a quote unquote punishment. So you're not owed this sort of attorney that's appointed to you to protect and defend you. And so that means a person has to find their own private attorney, who can be very costly because, attorneys need to make a living. And it's, it can be really overwhelming. So we see a lot of cases that folks just aren't able to, even if they have a claim to stay, aren't able to make it just because of the cost and access to justice. So that's a big symptom and problem with the system at the moment.
Wow. Yeah, I just learned something new myself. Now, from your perspective, what are the most urgent civil rights issues facing immigrant communities in Chicago today, especially considering the recent increase of immigration law enforcement?
Yeah. Really, it's about protecting the rule of law and protecting due process. And I think both of those concepts can feel a little fuzzy, especially if you're not necessarily engaged in these topic areas. And it can feel really easy to say, well, due process for some, but not for others, right? Like everyone everyone's against the bad guy, right? No one likes them necessarily speaking, but the premise of due process and protecting the rule of law sort of hinges on the fact that everyone gets that, even if they are a quote unquote bad person. Even if they are a bad person, no quote unquote. And the fact is that we have to fight for those policies and principles, because it creates a slippery slope. If we decide this group doesn't get due process, then it's easy to expand it, and then suddenly none of us get it. And due process is really the principle that was founded upon this country. And if we value what the country is founded upon and the principles of this nation, then we have to all come together and say that we want to protect those two aspects.
Absolutely. Now, what advice would you give to young people, especially women of color, who want to enter legal or nonprofit work focused on justice?
I would encourage anyone, especially if you feel called to the law, to really consider going. I think you'll hear a lot of naysayers who say we have too many attorneys, it's too expensive, you can make more money elsewhere. And perhaps that's all true. We do have lots of attorneys, but we don't have attorneys with lived experiences that we have gone through. It is too expensive, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try. And you can make more money in different fields, but there is a value in having this sort of training and leadership and ability. And so if more women of color and more people of color are interested in joining the law, I encourage them fully, because we don't have enough lawyers like you.
Perfect. Now, for listeners who care about immigrant rights but are not sure where to start, what is one small but meaningful action they could take today?
One of the things we're encouraging people right now is to really go and support our commercial corridors. They are getting hit left and right, just in the sense of their workforce being scared to go, their clientele being scared to go. They themselves are worried about what they're going to do, and they're getting hit with the tariffs and other things. And in fact, our CEO, Luis Gutierrez, just issued an op-ed along with Tonantzin Carmona, who's a fellow at Brookings Institute, to talk about the impact of these federal policies on our local entrepreneurs. And so what we would encourage folks is to go visit a store. And I think this is a great time for us to break out of our Chicago segregated walls and go visit a commercial corridor that maybe you haven't gone to before. There are 16 actually Latino majority neighborhoods in Chicago, all of them with thriving commercial corridors. Go to one you haven't been before and go check out the stores, go check out a restaurant. I think that's a small but impactful thing you can do right now.
Makes sense. Simple and impactful, as you said. Lastly, as we're wrapping up this conversation, here's a question I'm going to ask you, as I ask all of our guests. In your opinion, what can our listeners do in their everyday lives to combat hate and discrimination?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I really, I know that folks are super engaged online, and I think that's a phenomenal thing because that's where we can meet people where they're at. That's where we can share information and democratize knowledge. I really want to encourage folks to also be good social media citizens, meaning as you engage in things to ensure that what you're sharing is accurate, it's up to date, that you trust the source, especially if it's a hot take that you agree with before you share it. Because I think oftentimes we're in echo chambers. Oftentimes we are, yes, right? We're like, maybe, we're not necessarily noticing that's an AI video and not real just because we really like the message. And this is all targeted and an attempt to create division. And so I think we have to, if you're going to be online, you have to be really cognizant and commit to ensuring that anything you're sharing is true and accurate.
Right. As a PR professional myself, I 100% agree. And even in meme culture nowadays, I feel it's very tempting for people to see a meme that is aligned with their social political views that are within the echo chamber, as you said, and they quick to share it. And then, oh, this sounds kind of like a fact. And it's probably true. Share.
Yeah, like I want it to be true. Yeah. And I actually learned that being in the city, that things are just so nuanced. And so, I get it. People have lots of feelings, but I think if you can take a beat, we will survive without everyone's hot take. So,
right. Is there anything else that we didn't discuss today that you wish that we mentioned or that you'd like to bring up?
No, I just say the commission's work is just so phenomenal, and I hope folks learn more about it. And I think I used to rely on the commission a lot when I was still an illegal aid because I represented survivors of crime. And one of the things that you can apply for is called the U visa. And that includes administrative bodies, investigative bodies like the commission. So it doesn't just have to be police. So people who maybe have been discriminated against in housing issues or at work have been, victims of harassment may have an avenue through the commission as well. So I encourage folks to, get those consultations and then see what their options are.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Is there any way, if anyone is in our audience listening and would like to contact Latinos Progresando, how can they do so? And what are the social media channels?
Follow us at Latinos Pro on most channels, and then of course our website. And we have a fantastic newsletter that has a lot of really great information. So if you can follow us there, and then I'm on LinkedIn and all platforms. Beautiful.
Well, Nubia, thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate your wisdom, and I really hope our listeners do too. This was very insightful for me, and sure would be for all of our listeners. And to all of our listeners, thank you for joining us today for another episode of Think Before You Hate. Just remember, if you or anybody you know feels that they've been a victim of discrimination, please do not hesitate to contact the Chicago Commission on Human Relations at 312-744-4111. Again, that is 312-744-4111. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on X, we're on Instagram, and most recently Blue Sky. And remember, until next time, think before you hate.